Hello everyone, it's another Midweek Musings with Fifi and Sam. The craziness continues unabated, surprise, surprise. So hope everyone's staying as sane as possible as things ramp up. How are things your end?
Yeah. Same shit, different day, really, isn't it? But
Well,
yeah. Oh, one thing I did want to do before we go into our musings is I wanted to say a hi to my mum.
oh yes,
I
hello.
found out this morning that she watches our videos every week, which I was
Oh,
like,
hello,
so
Sam's mum.
mum.
This one's dedicated to you. Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, but yeah. No, I'm good. We've had a really busy week. It's my daughter's birthday today. She's in,
Wow,
which is just like
time
I don't know
flies.
where those 7 years have gone. It's it's yeah, a bit crazy, but and
Yeah.
it's prompted some of my musings this week, which we'll go on to in a bit. But
Mm.
how are you?
Yeah, I'm not bad actually, surprisingly. You never know, do you? From one week to the next.
No. Well, from one day
Happens,
to the next, to be quite honest
yeah,
with
more
you.
likely, or hourly. Um, yeah, I'm not doing too badly actually. I'm just kind of watching things from a bit of a detached
Yeah.
place and yeah, just staying sane in that way, I guess, not getting too dragged into the furore and the all the craziness that, as I said, continues unabated as is designed.
Yes, we didn't discuss talking about this, but it's just popped in with Matt Hancock going into I'm a
I
Celebrity.
mean,
The
it's
pantomime
just
continues.
it is pantomime, isn't it? When you
It
but then you look at the whole thing, like Zelensky, just to change. I mean, look at there's
was Vogue photo shoot.
commit vote, and footage of him like back in his comedian days playing a keyboard with his dick. I mean,
Mental.
thankfully you don't actually see. Ugh.
Thanks.
But it's like, and that's the no. It is it's beyond.
It is. It's one of those. If you don't laugh, you just. I think.
Cry forever. Yeah, it is madness, and it will drive you mad if you take it really seriously.
Yeah,
A lot of this stuff, and they hate being laughed at as well, so it's always good when you do sort of poke
that's
fun.
true. I haven't watched telly in a really
No,
long time. We just don't
no.
really have the telly on
Mm.
in my house at all these days. But
Oh
still just
god,
see, just
that'll give you an insight, won't it? Because I don't either. I haven't watched it for years. But if you put that on, I mean, ours isn't even connected. We'd have to do
yeah.
stuff to like actually make it work. But you don't. That's all you got to look to see where we're at. Just put the telly on. There you go.
You got
But yeah,
Coronation Street talking about chemtrails and 5G and the cabal and
it's so desperate. They're so ham-fisted with it. That's the thing. It's so awkward, and I've noticed like whenever they're doing these bits, the acting sort of goes downhill. Like it's really bad. It sounds like really sort of amateur dramatics, like in a school play or something. It's because it's so unconvincing. It's been shoehorned in. Right, let's try and manipulate the
yeah,
masses with this. And it's actually all they're doing is making people's ears prick up and going, hang on a minute,
I
why
think
are
so.
they? It doesn't work. It seems to backfire, but yeah, I do not miss
No,
TV
I don't. I
at
don't.
all. It
The
is
world is a better place
literal
without a telly.
programming, isn't it? I mean, it really is just this, but
It,
it's so heavy-handed now that it's actually having the reverse effect sometimes. I think it's like, why are they talking about this in soaps? We just want to see people rowing and having affairs and whatever, you know.
Yeah, it's
So it's your little one's birthday, her 7th. So have you got plans? And
yeah, we had our birthday party last weekend. I gave her the choice whether she had it the weekend before or the weekend after, and obviously being a child, she wanted it the weekend. So we've
straight
done the
away?
party.
Yeah.
But yeah, tonight we're gonna go out for a meal and just gonna open all
Oh.
that back. My mum's popping over.
Oh.
Be nice, but it's kids' milestones. I think, for me as a mum, that it all kind of hits home. I was looking back at photos of her over the last 7 years, and and I mean, obviously your mind drifts to what kids have had to put up with over the last 2.5 years, the interruption to their life, the confusion, and just abject insanity, and the effect it's had on every single area of their lives. And I you always find yourself kind of looking to the future, and you think about, they're growing up so fast already. And yeah, it kind of hammers home for me. It's why I stand up, it's why I speak out, it's why
Yeah.
I do everything I do, because I really worry about, the world that we're going to be leaving the next generation, like our children, our
Yeah.
grandchildren. If obviously, hopefully we won't have to go too much into, what the plan is. Hopefully people watching this, already get that. But I can't live knowing that I just let it happen. I mean, whether I mean, I do believe, we're going to win. I do believe that we can stop it. This great awakening is gathering pace. And I do believe, whether that'll be in my lifetime or not, I don't know, but it is all about the children for me. I think of my life and what I've experienced and as a mum, what you want for your children when they're growing up, and the kind of life you imagine for them. And I don't mean what they do and all that kind of stuff, but for them
The
to have
opportunities and the
exactly that, and the freedom to be able to make those choices, and to find joy and happiness, and not be tied in to this matrix. And yeah, I've been pondering this morning.
of
I just
course, yeah.
And last night when I was decorating the house and wrapping presents and stuff, it was just this, like, just wow, like she's growing up so fast. And obviously everything at the moment, we discussed earlier, it is gathering pace.
Yeah,
We're
we're
seeing all
noticing
over the
it, aren't
place
we?
all these trials. I mean, there was the first man to have his implant chip in his hand, and we're
Yeah,
seeing digital currencies being trialed,
yeah.
in countries across the world. We're seeing the bills that are going through Parliament, getting more and more. Just, I mean, that there aren't really
It's
the words to describe it, but
completely draconian. I mean, the, the thing is, like I've been saying quite a lot, that because of what is fueling this whole thing, the intention behind the agenda and everything, it's because it is so purely evil. It's there's one intent, and that is the enslavement, complete control of humanity. And at some point it becomes visible. It has to. You can't hide that level of malignancy and ill will and intent forever. They've been trying their best. They've had to for what looks like, thousands of years. This has been this very, very long process, and it's all been stealth. It's all been that totalitarian tiptoe. But at some point when things get that extreme, there is no justification for it. There's nothing that can justify what they're trying to inflict upon people. So that it is gathering pace. They are really, it feels rushed. It does feel rushed. It hasn't got that kind of tiptoe feel that everything did before. I mean, obviously we had 9/11, and that seems to have been like a real catalyst.
That was a catalyst, yeah.
But for everything, you know, it was like the next big one. And everything kind of rolled on from there. But even, you know, sort of back then, like 20 years ago, it was still, you've got that things being implemented, but not like now where it's like it's let's throw everything. And I do personally think it's because it's that rushing alongside the awakening.
I
That's
completely
why
agree.
it has to be that fast, because by God, we can't slow down now because it's happening. They know. And what they're hoping for is to keep people in that space of fear where they're not accessing, you know, the awakening, whatever you want to call it. They're not in that more expanded consciousness where they're feeling, you know, oh, the power's actually with me. And so it's going to appear very, very bleak at times. It's going to seem like, my God, we're being absolutely hammered. But we must remember why they're having to do this.
It comes back to that balance that we talk about, and wherever you see great darkness and great evil, there is always the balance of, you know, great good and great light. You know, they work in tandem. You don't get one without the other.
No.
And as you say, you know, the reason that it's all so fast and so becoming so in your face is because they are aware that we are rising, and you know, there is this need now that actually it's now or never, because otherwise, you know, too many of us are just going to be like, not on our watch.
Exactly. It's the remembrance. It's, if you can, we're always having to flip things around because that's what they've done. They've inverted everything. We have to flip them back around. So actually, when you see this, you know, absolute shit show unfolding and getting faster and faster, you can do one of two things. You can be absolutely on your knees, my God, we're finished, there's nothing I can do, little me, you know, all of that. Or you can go, why is it they're having to do all of this against these little me's? Why is it it's 24/7? Why all the deception? Why all the stealth? Why do they have to have our compliance? Why do we have to consent? Because surely if they are all powerful, they wouldn't have to hide. They'd just be out there and they would take what they please. They would do, it would be done. It would have always been done. But no, it's all trickery. It's all illusion, because we are the ones that have the power. And that's what we cannot be allowed to find out. But obviously this is what's being found out. This is what the Great Awakening is. People are more and more, you know what it is? It's like everything that they're doing, at some point it becomes an affront to your very soul. And it's just no. And you start to feel this upwelling. And that's the first sort of step.
And I think it was COVID that and the just obscenely nonsensical bullshit that came with COVID, that I think for many of us who, you know, I myself was sort of dawdling along the little path already, but not to any level as to where I am now. And it was all of that I was and it was a state you just couldn't you couldn't.
No, it was on a very, very deep level, which is how, you know, I ended up out of my job and all of these things, because I literally couldn't do it. I couldn't put on a mask. Even when I was in the really fearful states of, oh my God, I'm not going to have money coming in, what on earth is going to happen? plus back then we were a lot more isolated. We hadn't really come together yet. It was all very up in the air. But despite all of this, there's something, so it's not something I can take credit for, like, oh, well, that was me, it was just this, even if I'd wanted to go along with stuff to get along, I literally couldn't do it, because I couldn't look myself in the eye and have a shred of self-respect
Exactly
or
that.
dignity left. And so for me, that was more important. I'd actually rather die, to be quite honest. I honestly would, than survive at any
It
cost.
does
I
sound
don't
drastic,
have
but
kids,
there
so
is,
I'm not, this isn't a judgment against anyone that found
yeah.
themselves. No, that's not what I'm saying.
I
I'm
mean,
in
none
my
of us,
situation, and
can kind of,
I don't.
anticipate how we'd feel in any situation and what we'd do,
No,
or whatever. And certainly kids do very much.
of course, people with
They come into the
families and
equation, but certainly, I agree with the sentiment of I'd rather die on my feet
it's
than
not
live on my
worth,
knees. And
exactly, and
again, it comes back to the fact that if we all sit down, shut up, do as we're told, comply, let this unfold, and just remain silent about it, well, that's how we've got to the point that we are. That's how things got this bad. And as drastic as it sounds, the only way for things to change is for people to find their voice,
yeah,
and to actually do what it takes to ensure that the next generation can live their life with their freedom, their bodily autonomy, their rights, to be able to kind of have these opportunities and this wonderful life that they deserve. And
yeah.
I yeah
It
I
is
think it's really
compliance.
important.
And that's the thing. They will do anything they can to coerce you into complying, because they've pulled such a number on us. Remember, they've made us completely dependent on their systems for
Everything.
hundreds of years now. And obviously in the last, since the last industrial kind of age, they obviously want to introduce a new one now, which will be the technocracy. But it's been that gradual reduction in self-sufficiency. They've whittled away any kind of spiritual connection. It's all become utterly focused on this material, this one life, this material experience. Anything, if I can touch it, that's real, but anything else, and they've used it against us. And so that's how they get us to comply, because if you can't see beyond this, I keep coming back to it all the time, that if you are wholly focused on survival, on physical survival, and you can't see, they don't want you to know you're infinite. You've always been here, you always will, in whichever shape. This is temporary, and of course we're very attached to it, but it's going to go. Even if you lived 1,000 years, at some point that ends, and you have to accept that and deal with it. And look, my God, this is a very, very tiny experience compared to everything that's out there to be experienced, and it's all within us. They don't want us to know that, and so that's how they get you. They will get you fixated on. So when they're the food supply, that's shortening it, they're doing this, that, and the other. It's playing on those primal fears, and we've lost that ability to manifest what
Yeah.
our needs, which is an
I
absolute
mean,
inherent ability.
it is also a very good way of keeping everybody very distracted on literally spending
Completely.
every waking moment on fulfilling those basic needs of
It's not
working
life.
or doing whatever to be able
We're
to eat,
worse off.
and
Yeah.
still struggling, and obviously in that constant state of not being able to provide and
that
all that kind of stuff, your mind is in this state where it just literally doesn't have the
no,
energy
you don't
to
have the
be
time.
going to these other places of
Exactly. Yeah, you literally do not have the luxury of being anything other than a cog in the machine. And that's all we're doing. We are like batteries. We're feeding, because what's at the top? The ones with all the riches, with everything. And they've lied. So, but peasants were better off than us. You think, what? They worked 5 or 6 hours a week?
I actually saw a very interesting meme, actually, which is where I learn a lot. Memes are great. But
Yeah.
a meme about how we are now actually worse off than
Wait,
medieval peasants
this is
because they
what,
had enforced
yeah,
holidays,
yeah.
like
It was,
regular
but
enforced
this is
holidays
what
to
they've
keep them
done. Yeah,
happy.
to keep them happy, because they knew. And this is where you can see. Do you know what I noticed actually yesterday? I was watching. Every now and then I'll put a film. I desperately, it takes hours to find something to watch. If I'm in the middle, I do a lot of reading, but it's like fancy watching a film.
Yeah.
Here we go, let's trawl through something that isn't like outright satanic and blah blah. Anyway, so I managed to find this one. It was quite good actually. It's new. I mean, there's always going to be stuff in there, but it wasn't blatant. But anyway, it's set in the early 50s, and just looking at all the sets and just the whole thing, you can see like how we've degraded and degraded and degraded over the further back you go, the more beautiful architecture was. People didn't live in these ugly little squat boxes that all look the same. You look back at, and even people that were in blue collar jobs, whatever you want to say, back then were in houses that people that earn a decent, I couldn't dream of owning. And you just see it like this slide, and they do this. I've noticed that because we're very, very affected by our environment, and yeah, what we're surrounded by, and how many ugly buildings everywhere they wouldn't have tolerated even a few generations ago. And it's all part of that disconnecting us from that, what we create naturally. You think of what we could be living when you see all these. I like watching these on YouTube. They're all these like tree houses, like building unusual little
Oh, I
place.
saw a house made out of Labradorite crystal the other day, and I
Oh,
just
I've got. I know. I've seen a
middle of the
rose quartz
woods.
bath. I'm like, I want that. I want
Yeah.
a rose quartz bath.
I want a Labradorite house in the middle of the woods.
But this is the thing. We have the ability to create the most incredible things, whatever it is. We are absolutely creative beings. We're from the ultimate creator. We are therefore creators ourselves within, whatever this is. On the other side, they want to be God. They want to be gods, and that's what it's a whole thing. I mean, maybe we'll talk about it all one day. There's obviously like a lot of stuff to all of this. So they've gone that they're using that. Well, they don't even have like the creative abilities that we do. So we basically manifest for them. So everything around us, we're unwittingly creating for them. But what we can create, and we see it all the time. Well, maybe not all the time, actually. You have to sort of go looking for it. But these just incredible spaces and places, and the art, the things that we can create, that could be our world, that could be our experience. It's been hijacked. Our power has been hijacked and is being used against us. But do not forget that we have the power, and that's why everything is so intense. That's why there's so much distraction. That's why it's all lies and deception and from start to finish, it's because they are using us and they do not want us to wake up and go, hang on, no, not doing that anymore, because that's all it is. It's the compliance, like you say. That's what it comes down to. And it always, even if it's forced out of us and it seems like there's no choice, there is actually a choice.
There's always a choice.
There is the choice. That
not
doesn't
necessarily
mean,
an easy one,
no,
but there's always a choice.
There is. And it's just, that's when we get into that, the real bravery, when you are scared sick and it's your very existence, seemingly on this level, at risk. If you can move beyond it and get into the fearlessness, you are literally on another frequency. And those are the people that raise up others, and that's when you see things starting to turn.
Well, we did see it, didn't we? It was about this time last year, wasn't it? God, that year's gone fast. But with the 40,000 care staff that lost their jobs, and with it was somewhere in the region of 100,000 NHS staff that were prepared to lose their jobs over the issue of this mandated injection. And I as we both sort of worked in that industry, and we both have said that had we been in work, obviously we would have stood with those people, and it's not a line that we would have crossed. But of course it was a horrible situation for anyone to be in, but for those for those people to I'm sure that most of them were not in a position where they had loads of money behind them, where they could actually afford to lose their job, but they did it anyway. And obviously we did see that then U-turned, and it again just goes to show the power of when people actually do follow that fire in their gut that says, I just can't go against how I feel and what I believe in. And it obviously paved the way for a lot more people, knowing they weren't alone, to be able to kind of stand up with that. And again, it does go to show the power that we have, when we do stand up, when we do just know.
It's that united energy. And if you can use that, like it's that fire in your belly as the fuel, and not get pulled and pulled and pulled back into fear and, oh my God, what if? But if you really go with that, feel that, because that's right. That's coming from something that's not your personality, your character, that's something else that's higher. And if you can keep connected and have absolute faith in whatever it is, if you're religious, if you're spiritual, not spiritual, it doesn't matter. There's something bigger there. And if that's where you can place your faith, and not in the little me that all these terrible things had happened to, you will find that the path clears and that things do start to work out, because you're not trapped in those lower states, which is where they want to keep us. And that's what we're still seeing. At some point, when things get really, really, really bad, people don't have a choice. When your back's against the wall, you can't look around for someone else to be the one to step up. It will be that everyone is called upon that doesn't want to go down that dystopian nightmare route. You're going to have some that, they'll chip in the hat, they'll do whatever, forget them. There will be some, I mean, I hope not, in an ideal situation it would never get to that, but if there are, then, but for those of us that know and that have been going along out of fear and really don't want to, there is a point where it's like, no. And it's just at what stage. So we're all at different stages, so there's no point in getting into judgment. And we said from the beginning, unfortunately, because of how we've been conditioned, things have to get so bad, so bad, before they will rise up and say no. Because of everything I've been saying about how we've been bred really to think, oh, poor little insignificant me, I just have to get through, you know, and we're living lives. It's not bloody life. How can that be life when you're the vast majority of your time is spent on, literally now it's just, forget like all the little extras, the nice holidays and the cars and blah blah, it's literally getting food on the table and heating, if you can afford that luxury now. And it's how it was always designed to go, get people hooked in. Oh yeah, well, you know, you go to work, it's all great, and look at what we've got here, and it's got harder and harder and harder and harder. And I've always questioned, like, how's this living? My God, hang on, we come here and we've got all this at our fingertips. Why on earth are we living like this? What's going on? It always baffled me completely. So I took off traveling. I was like, no, get me out of this, and had an amazing time, and thank God. And that's one of the things that I just think, yeah, the kids now, the idea of them not having that opportunity to really expand their horizons, where it literally is everything you do is focused on this physical survival. This is what we've got to just stop being obsessed with, this 3D, whatever you want to call it. Because once you start looking beyond that, oh, they get very nervous indeed. They get very nervous, because when you've got that more expanded view, even though, yeah, like, oh God, the idea of dying, not keen on that, you know, but you've still got it there, that, but you will go on, but there is more, there's so much more. It does change how you live and how much you're willing to tolerate here, and they don't want that. They don't like that at all, so they will try and close it down, like we're seeing with the protest bill we were talking about earlier, weren't we?
Yeah, that's getting its, is it third reading
It's
in the
had
House of Lords?
It's gone, so it passed through Commons, the House of Commons, and surprise, surprise. And last time it was sort of stopped at the House of Lords. They were like, no, but then they've made sure,
because that was the police.
It's the
crime and sentencing bill,
yeah,
already was passed, wasn't it? And then there's this
and
second
this is
one,
the public order bill. And so it's now gone to the House of Lords, and I believe they were debating it yesterday, and I don't know if that was the third or fourth reading, but anyway, they're desperate to try and clamp down.
You know, as you said earlier, you know, a lot of the stuff that, you know, that they're saying this bill is for, you know, in terms of preventing disruption and protecting property and all this, you know,
all the things
nonsense.
We've already got laws for.
Well, exactly that, you know, and you know, the wording is so vague and subjective always. That, you know, it's not very clear at all.
No, it never is. And it basically gives them the power to just decide on a whim to shut down. Oh, not that process. That one's all right, which we've seen already. The ones that are
and we are seeing, frequently.
And they clearly, we've got all the paid for and approved protests, all conveniently around climate change and so on and so forth, all that stuff. So you've got people,
and
it's really funny, isn't it, that there's always a camera crew ready.
There is a mainstream camera crew at
for like a handful of people.
Yeah, but then a year ago, when there were a million of us marching on the streets for freedom, nowhere to be found. Like, no, it didn't happen. So no, there's a couple hundred of them.
Yeah, they're obviously trying to use this as, you know, they're sort of getting it, on the one hand, they're getting it out, they're like, oh, stop oil, you know, all these terrible things that are killing the planet. Because any news is like, any publicity is good publicity. And then they're doing this fake kind of, oh, with this can't go on.
Yeah,
And
we need to curb these awful protesters.
And so they want the powers to well, basically stop any protest they decide is a threat, you know, whatever. So
I mean,
hang on, so the government...
I've not actually seen them stop any of these disruptive protests whatsoever. I've kind of just seen the police standing by and watching them, you know, cause damage and do this, you know,
yeah, but
huge
those, yeah,
disruption.
absolutely.
They'd stand giving them a drink because their hands are attached to the pavement.
Yeah,
Oh yeah,
yeah.
here, have some water.
It's so transparent. It
You
is so
see, you know, back in
transparent.
our protests, you know, where actually they were
No
all
one's
very, very
violent
peaceful until the police came
until
in,
the
and then the
police,
police,
yeah, and they will actually
and then it, yeah,
try. I mean, they've been filmed, and this is like all over the world. It's you know,
yeah,
common practice is van loads turning up. I remember seeing some footage. Now I don't know whether that was, it might have been another country, but it was fabulous. This van all blacked out pulled up, and you know, they all these burly guys get out, and some women as well, dressed up as protesters, but they were spotted by protest and hounded. They ran to get back in that van and took off because they were just agent provocateurs. They're there to try, but the only time we've seen any violence, and it's been minimal,
it has,
considering the number of people
yeah,
and how things could turn. It's been very minimal, so they can't get you that way, so they're trying to. And really it's just the threat of, oh my god, you could be arrested, you could have this ankle bracelet, you know, tracker thing put on you when you haven't done anything wrong, blah blah blah. But again, it's just when people refuse to be intimidated by that, and you still come out in the same numbers, and when you see the police coming for someone, you don't stand there filming,
yeah,
you get them away.
yeah.
You protect
And
each
you know,
other.
we've said it before, and you know, we'll probably continue to say it, but you know, the fact that they are going to such extreme lengths to try and not
Why?
only put people off protests, but criminalize protests and actually be very picky about which protests they want to stop. But it does go to show the power that we have when we do all gather and we do all, you know, use our right to protest. You know, it can make a difference,
Exactly.
and that is what they're afraid of, and that is what they are trying to stop. And I
Yeah.
think, you know, it's a very important thing to remember, and it does always go back to the power that we have as individuals, and
Yeah.
particularly when we connect with other individuals that hold the same values and we work together, you know, to do the right thing. And I think it's
Exactly.
yeah,
So we won't stop,
I will not be
whatever the
stopping.
risk is. We won't stop, and lots of people won't. And I think there will be a major backlash because this is a huge infringement on our human rights. But like I said, it all comes out the woodwork. They reveal their faces, but remember, it's the desperation to keep us contained and controlled, and we can't be in the
No,
end. So don't buy into it, no matter how bad it might look. It looks bad for a reason. So god, we're running out of time. We were on a roll there, weren't we?
we were.
Well done again if you've made it this far, people. And yeah, we'll be
We
back.
shall bid
We'll
you farewell.
return. Yeah, have a lovely day, evening, whatever it is. And
Great week.
yeah,
Good stand.
yes. And we will speak to you very soon. Lots of love.